Democracy in Conversation. Welcome to Democracy in Conversation. Today, I have one of my constituents, Aryan Bajpai, who has been involved in multiple ways in politics and in advocacy since he was a teenager. And I wanted to invite you to talk to you a little bit about some of your motivation and some of the things that you think that you've achieved, especially getting involved so young. So, what is it early on that made you want to get involved in your community, in advocacy? I know you've done a lot of advocacy on the environment, but you know, there's this kind of stereotype that young people don't care. What made it different for you?
Well, thank you for having me here today. I think the biggest thing for me was being born in this beautiful riding of Ottawa West Nepean. I got to explore the nature of our riding, the people in our riding, really connect with all of them. But I think what moved me the most towards advocacy, towards politics, has been seeing the environmental impacts from climate change on our riding. So that could be tornadoes, more severe thunderstorms, ice storms, even floods at some point. So seeing that impact the places where I go to relax, where I go to have fun, where I hang out with my friends, that's been very sobering. And I think that it made me realize I can either sit back and watch it happen, or I can try to mitigate it in some way. And that's kind of pushed me towards advocacy for environment a little bit. Another thing is I define myself as an Indo-Canadian. So my family arrived to Atlantic Canada in the 1960s, and they were blown away by how welcoming Canadians were. And I still see that welcome in our riding in Ottawa West Nepean. And it's just an incredible way to connect with so many diverse people, yet still keep who I am. And I feel that now a bit of that sentiment is changing, especially towards immigrants of Indian and South Asian descent. So policy and advocacy isn't just about environment, it's about people being able to be who they are, being able to contribute to Canada and keep contributing to our beautiful country.
So a lot of what you're doing in democracy really stems from your own childhood, from sort of your identity, growing up and just looking at the concrete world around you. But a lot of people have that, and a lot of them don't end up getting involved. So, what is it that made you go from observing the community around you to actually wanting to participate?
Sure. So I think there's a bit of a misconception in society about youth. There's a misconception that youth are either uninterested or unaware about politics. I think a few things have kind of changed my trajectory from just observing to acting, and one of those actually came in middle school, I want to say. So in middle school, we started talking about policy, federal, provincial, even municipal, right in the classroom. And then by high school, we started organizing debates with candidates, political candidates. And we started also organizing walkouts and stuff, protests against policy we found that was unfair towards students. So I think when I got involved in that, that's when I kind of realized, oh, I can actually make a difference if I take the jump to act. And it's not just me. There's so many youth out there, so many youth in our own community who are willing to take that jump. I just feel that there's a lot as well who may worry that they are not being heard enough in decision-making processes. That's why they feel like there's a bit of a gap between what they are thinking and saying on social media or saying out in protests like the climate strikes, and actually participating in things like youth councils or so on. So I think there's a bit of a mix. There's a lot of youth that are really, really involved, and there's a lot of youth who are just waiting to find that next step to feel like their voices matter.
But democracy is a lot more than elections.
Absolutely.
And, what I've seen is a lot of young people won't necessarily join political parties, but they're active and they're engaged. And a lot of the young people that do come to talk to me as a politician or participate are already involved at a lot of different levels. And, that kind of participation is what makes democracies thrive. But there needs to also be that connection between that and the actual elected people, the elections to translate some of that policy into government. And you've been involved on that side as well, right?
Yes.
I know that you went door knocking in my campaign.
Yes.
But tell me a little bit about your engagement in there.
So I remember in 2020, during the pandemic, there was a campaign for a just recovery from COVID-19, and it addressed environment, it addressed fair standards for workers, for all Canadians, Indigenous rights, and so on. And we youth were wondering how we would be able to play a role in that. And what we decided was that we can organize across the country in every single riding across the country to go to our member of parliament and advocate. So I remember we organized a call with your office, and you took not just the time that was set for our meeting, you took double that time. You had to create a whole new Zoom link at the time, yes, to engage with us. So really, there are a lot of different ways to get involved there. Door knocking was another way I felt that I could help out. And I think it's because I wanted to really connect with more neighbors, get to see what issues matter to them, and see where commonalities are with issues that matter to me. Obviously, environment and so on. But it has been a phenomenal experience, and I think getting to experience Parliament as well has really opened my eyes to how advocacy doesn't just have to be words, it can be actions which translate to policy as well.
And you actually participate and have been participating for years in my weekly coffee hour.
Yes.
And this is just a chance that I give to constituents. Now it's on Zoom to just come and have conversations and talk to one another, talk to me. And you've been pretty much going to that for what, 4 or 5 years? You were a teenager when you started.
Yeah.
And how did that give you a chance to engage? But also, you're one of the few on that call that are quite young.
Yes.
There are some people that are older. What has that meant for you, being part of that coffee hour?
I think coffee hour is, I mean, I know you've said it before, but you find it one of your best hours of the week.
Yeah.
And I have to say the same. I mean, I'm 23 right now. I could be doing anything on a Friday night, but I choose to attend because it is the conversations we have there are some you cannot find anywhere else. We're in such a polarized world. There's misinformation and disinformation which are threatening democracy as well. That having conversations with people who may not share your exact view, and of course we don't always agree as well, but being able to go on and voice that, being able to learn from one another. I mean, there are some people who have such experience. There are people with, they work across different sectors, technology, health, AI, so on, environment, and so on. But having that really opens my eyes to, policy has an impact, and it has an impact across everything that we do. Politics touches everything that we do. So really being able to be on there, not just as a voice for youth. I mean, youth aren't a monolith, of course. Yeah. I can only represent what I know. But being able to be there is such a privilege, and I think it's important to hear from the youth right in those conversations too.
Well, everything that we do in Parliament is going to impact you and young people more than it's going to impact us. So it's really important to get those voices. So you've also taken that political engagement to the international level, and at a very young age, you were able to be part of the official Canadian delegation to COP27, which was the Global Environment Conference. And how did that come about? And what was it like to be there in the world stage and be part of the Canadian delegation on an issue that you've already said really, really mattered to you? How did you get there?
It was an experience I'll never forget. I think I like to tell my friends and family that I've already achieved everything I want to by being able to be there. But no, jokes aside, it was really an important journey. for me because I started out volunteering with the United Nations Association in Canada. And with UNA Canada, they had a Generation SDG program, so for the Sustainable Development Goals. And I started out volunteering as an ambassador, as a youth ambassador for that before I turned 18. And then I stayed with them for a little bit as a mentor as well to help other youth design projects around the SDGs that they could apply locally. And then through UNA Canada, they had an opportunity for youth delegates to attend COP27. So there was a selection process for that. And then after that, they put our names forward to Environment and Climate Change Canada for official Canadian party delegate status. And once that was approved by the UN framework on the Convention on Climate Change, we were able to go to Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt in 2022 and not only take part in all the side events and so on, we were able to sit in the rooms where the negotiations happened because of that official party delegate status. And that was mind-blowing. I've never seen anything like it. I mean, I used to do Model UN, so it's a little bit different to Model UN, but to be in a room where you realize that they're not only talking about important issues, they are forming policies right there in front of you. That is phenomenal. And I noticed, of course, in COP27 or in any other COP or big international conference, you have countries from all over the world. You have different types of states, different types of governments. And what I think we take it for granted, but Canada's democracy, it's very inclusive and it is participatory. So we got to get in a room with Minister Guilbeault, who was the Minister of Environment and Climate Change at the time, and he didn't only get to have a conversation with us and vice versa. He took time to include what we said as a consultation, and the next few days he brought that up with his negotiators. So we were able to really have a say, and it was taken to the floor on the international stage, so to speak. But the really what matters beyond that as well is that it's not just what happens in the rooms, the negotiation rooms, it's also what happens in the hallways, or it's what happens at the side events. I was talking to indigenous climate, land defenders from South America in the hallways. I made friends with people from all over the world. I turned around and I bumped into Dr. Johan Rockstrom, who has pioneered this idea of planetary boundaries. And I saw a documentary about him in class when I was studying at Carleton University. And then I turned around and he's right there. So it's really a phenomenal experience. And I really learned from it as well. I learned about the kinds of issues we can bring back to our democracy here and how youth can get involved, for example, in a letter writing campaign.
Which you also did.
Yes. So I led one especially as the wildfires were going on in Canada, I led one to advocate to the government MPs and to the ministers as well on transitioning away from public financing and fossil fuels. And not too long after, of course, a lot of consultation, they started announcing reducing and elimination of inefficient fossil fuel subsidies. So playing a part in that, it means a lot.
So you've seen, at a very young age, that by getting involved and then being given these opportunities to go on the world stage, but the direct result of your personal advocacy and the impact on not just Canadian policy, but global policy. You literally got to see the minister use the words and the ideas that you expressed and use them in an international negotiation.
Yes.
So firsthand that if you get involved, you can actually make a difference. And, for all of your peers, like for other young people who think, no one's going to listen to us anyway. It doesn't, the world is so negative. Now I'm stereotyping a little bit. I know that there are some young people that that don't actually believe that if they engage, they will have impact.
Yeah.
What would you say to those peers of yours?
So I would say to the youth, I think I would say, if you are not being heard, make yourself heard. Try and occupy those spaces. Try and make your voice heard in ways that can lead to tangible action. Because if we sit around and we think that, nothing's going to happen, well, then, there's a quote, you miss 100% of the shots you never take. So you should really believe that there will be people who are willing to listen. You have done it yourself. You do it every week on Coffee Hour, and you read, all these letters, emails that constituents send to you. You hear them. You take time to meet with them. That is a way that we can make ourselves heard, and to translate that into policy, attend consultations, vote. That is the most important thing. I remember I was 17 and I felt so frustrated that I could not vote. Yes, and now I study in Geneva, Switzerland, and I signed up to vote from there.
Yeah, you're doing your master's there.
I am. So I signed up to vote from there, got a mail-in ballot, and then sent it from overseas. So voting is so important. But like you said, what happens in between matters too. So I think to every youth, I understand feeling like you're not heard, but then you got to make yourself feel heard.
And now you're in Geneva. You're doing your master's. You're right there by the United Nations. And you have a class of people that are coming from all over the world.
Yes.
And some of them from countries where, democracy can't be taken for granted. And you've literally got young people around the world standing in front of bullets to get democracy. So now you're getting a bit more of a global perspective on things. So where do you see democracy going in the future? What does it mean to people who are younger globally? And what do you think needs to be done to really ensure that future generations will have that ability to be able to be heard, to influence policy, because it's not guaranteed.
No.
So what is it that you think needs to be done right now, and what are you learning there?
Yeah, so I guess I'll answer the last one first and then go on. But I think being in Geneva, in international Geneva, it's an experience that really broadens your horizons as well. And not just because you're surrounded by people from literally every country in the world. I mean, our school has people from every continent except maybe Antarctica, but every continent in the world. So being able to engage with them, really, it opens your minds to a lot of things. I mean, you do take things for granted. These are people, like you said, they're coming from countries, some of them are torn by conflict. Some of them are facing repression from their own governments. Some of them can't say how they feel or can't speak against their governments at all, even online. They cannot do that, otherwise they will be persecuted. So it makes you realize, we're so lucky in Canada. You are able to do all that. You are able to have, freedom of expression and speech and so on. But there's that, of course. But then also being surrounded by, NGOs, the United Nations, their headquarters in Geneva. We get to go sometimes as well to conferences. I remember there was a UN forum on democracy, on rule of law, and on human rights as well. And the theme was exactly this, about climate and how, participatory governance, it is so important because it makes for inclusive climate policy. And it's not just climate policy. That makes sense for every single policy. You need to have people be involved in the decision-making process. You need to have them involved in the lawmaking process, and you need to have youth be a very central part of that. So I think, in a very uncertain and rapidly changing world, the best way forward to say, if you care about human rights or an issue that really matters to you, is to view democracy as a vehicle to advance that, to view democracy as a vehicle to advance human rights, to advance climate policy, to advance climate justice. Democracy is so much more than just this faraway concept, it is something that we can all take part in. And I think being in Switzerland kind of helps with that because they're a very direct democracy as well. So we get to learn a bit about that too.
So, what's next for you? What do you see in your future? What are your plans?
Yeah, well, I think I've always been very interested in the intersection between climate justice and human rights. I would love to be in a place where I could really work to advance that. I've been looking at doing so in the United Nations or in an international system concept, but I would also be okay with doing it just right here at home. I think anywhere that I feel that I can make an impact, that I can help people, that I can help youth realize that, if I'm able to do all this, you can too. I think that's something that I'd love to do. And I want to work in an area where I'm able to express everything that I'm advocating for. So that's what I see in my future. It used to be that I wanted to do international human rights law. And I've gotten a little bit of legal studying, and then I realized, lawyers are so important, but policymakers are too. So I think I'd love to be in a place where I can be a part of negotiations.
Well, I have a distinct feeling that you will be.
Thank you.
Everything that you've done already and the experiences that you've had at such a young age, really impressive and
Thank
really
you.
inspiring. And I'm hoping that it will also inspire some other young people to do the same, because really the sky's the limit.
Absolutely.
And at this moment in history, with everything that's going on, we need people like you.
Thank you.
So, is there anything you wanted to add? If there's anything as final words?
Sure. So I think as a final word, something that is really really important to me and my mindset is that I'm also I call myself a history nerd,
Yeah.
and I like exploring any history that I can get my hands on, and because of that, I think democracy doesn't always disappear overnight. Sometimes it disappears when people stop taking part in it. So I think it is really important for all of us to not let go of what we have, to protect what we have, and to take part in what we have. And I have a quote.
Okay.
So I'm also an avid reader and a big Lord of the Rings fan. So I have a quote from
That's what
the Lord of the
book is
Rings.
for.
I have
Okay.
my book. Yes.
Okay.
So Lord of the Rings by J.R.R. Tolkien. And I keep a bookmark right where I think a really important quote is that matches not only this whole conversation, but it also matches the state of the world as we are today.
Okay, go ahead.
So the quote is, "It is not our part to master all the tides of the world, but to do what is in us for the succor of those years wherein we are set, uprooting the evil in the fields that we know, so that those who live after may have clean earth to till." Thank you.
Well, that is very special. And prophetic words. Thank you. And I really do think that I'm hoping that others will be inspired by you, by the journey you've had so far, and everything that you're going to do going forward. I'm really happy that you're here. I'm really glad that here's the young kid from Ottawa, West Nepean, in Geneva, going to the global stage. I really think that that's pretty special journey. So thank you for being here. Thank you for having this conversation.
Of course.
And
thank you for having me.
Of course. And this is Democracy in Conversation.